the club that welcomes all faiths, all walks of life, even OSU Cowboys. I'll begin by introducing the Rotarian and their guests, and if you would please stand as I call out your name, and then please sit down. And we'll hold our applause until everyone's been announced, but just know that you're special in your own special way. Brad Post is the visitor. Did I see his hand? Oh, thank you. Paul Bowman has his daughter and son, Ella Bowman and Jacob Bowman. Michael Turner has brought his beautiful daughter, Megan Turner, and his gorgeous wife, Lisa Turner. It's written right here. I'm going to read what's written. Charles Groom is the co-worker of Jack McClumphy. Rachel Jackson is the friend of Karen Keith and guest. Connor Cack is the guest and son of Greg Cack. Beth Ringel is Jim Stovall's guest. Lindsay Walker is the guest and daughter of Doug Walker. Anne Marie Davidson is the guest of Jerry Barrientos. Linda Goldner is the daughter of Becky Fields. You put down daughter? Thank you for that clarification. I probably could have noticed. Oh, not really. And Becky Fields also has a guest, Lori Carter, and Mike Wilson. Dr. Charles Pancras is the guest of Corey Nickerson. Jenny Howland is the mother and guest of John Howland. Tim Knoll has his great nephew, Ace Knoll, his son Dylan Knoll, and his wife Barbara Knoll. And with us today is one visiting Rotarian, Tom Gilbert. Now, welcome to our club.
President Rhonda, to our honored guests at the podium and seated at our tables, to my fellow Rotarians, I say good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. A couple weeks ago when President Rhonda asked if I would sing special music today, of course, thinking of the season and the time period we're in, was trying to find the right song and selection that would be fitting for our club. And being a vocal musician and a student of history, began to research, and I found quite intriguing one particular song that has become probably the most beloved Christmas song that is celebrated by the world. And its history is basically, it started out as a poem called Minuet Chrétien, which means Midnight Christians. And in 1847, Placide Cappeau, he was a winery merchant. He also was an atheist. And he was commissioned by the priest parish to write a poem for the restoration and dedication of the church organ. Intriguing that he would ask an atheist to do this. But he took on the challenge. And in a midnight ride in a buggy, looked up at the stars, and taking inspiration from the Gospel of Luke, from the Bible, he actually wrote this poem. He was so inspired by this poem, he asked a composer, a friend by Adolph Adams, to write some music to this poem. The poem became a song called Cantique de Noël. And it's interesting that also that the composer is Jewish. So you have an atheist who asks someone who's Jewish to compose a song of which it celebrates the day and the birth of Christ, which neither celebrates. But it has become the most beloved song, whether you are Christian, Jewish, atheist, or even a person of serendipity. Everyone has to stop and listen to this song. And I ask you today, as I sing it, since it did come as a poem, and I sing it a cappella today, let's think of the lyrics, let's think of the melody, and celebrate it in your own individualistic way. Cantique de Noël. Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error binding, till He appears, and the soul felt His word. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees and hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine, 'twas the night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine, oh, night divine, fall on your knees and hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine, 'twas the night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine, oh, night divine.
Sometimes you get it right. I want to thank our Rotary sponsors for supporting our club activities. We have a new sponsor, Charles Seacrest with Key Personnel. We welcome Charles as a new sponsor. We encourage you to do business with your fellow Rotarians. In addition to today's sponsors, let's thank the volunteers who came early to make this meeting run well. Let's give them a hand. There's a community meeting today above and beyond in room 234, so don't forget that. I have a few announcements. Mark Short asked me to invite you to attend and/or volunteer with the Winter Carnival at City of Clinton Elementary tomorrow evening at 6:30 to 8.
Bethany Church in Broken Arrow, and New Jerusalem Baptist Church in Tulsa. Rotary Club of Tulsa and Jackie Cooper Imports have come together to provide games, prizes, food, as well as volunteer supplies and giveaways to students. For more information or volunteer, contact Mark Short. Mark, are you here today? Giveaway. There he is back there. Remember, we will not be meeting December 24th or December 31st. The Rotary Club of Tulsa office will be closed between Christmas and New Year's. Our next weekly meeting after today is January 7th. Congratulations go out to the following new members on earning their blue badge. Please stand in place. Chris McCallan and Annie Thomasek. Give them a round of applause. Karen Keith, if you will make your way to the stage and introduce our new member from the podium. The new member orientation today was conducted by Jake Dollarhigh. Jake, thank you for doing that. And Karen, you may have the floor.
I'm really psyched. I want you to welcome Josh Herlin as our newest club member. I met Josh as he volunteered to help as a financial advisor to our Juvenile Trust Authority. He was so engaged in the group that we've now asked him to serve as a member of the board of that trust. So he gets involved, he cares, he's passionate. Josh grew up in Wagner, Oklahoma. He graduated OSU. He served as an embedded trainer for the Afghanistan soldiers as part of the Army Reserve in 2005. Just over a year ago, Josh, in a brilliant move, married the amazing Teresa Grasso. Teresa works, she's a lawyer, she works in Social Security disability law. Josh is a financial advisor with Morgan Stanley. And now a little bit of Josh trivia. His great-grandfather was a wildcatter with Dewey Bartlett's grandfather. So please welcome Josh to our club.
Thank you, Karen, and welcome, Josh. All right, Sarge, take it away. Matthew Bristow.
All right. So we have quite a few today, so I'm going to do my best to be prompt. So a reminder for everyone who isn't normally with us, all the fines announced today go to our local Rotary Foundation serving numerous charities and Rotary projects here in Tulsa. So to start off, Mike, are you here? It's $100 for Mike. His birthday was on December 9th, so thank you very much, Mike. Norm as Johnson, say it quietly, because I'm never very good at that one. $100. If Norm, are you here? If you are, I'm sorry. If you're not, thank goodness. Birthday on December 10th, thank you very much. John Howland sporting one of his fabulous bow ties with another one right here. $100 for John's birthday upcoming on the 20th. Thank you, John. Monty, right at the back. Those people who think they can slip away. Monty gave $100 for his birthday, which is also on the 20th, so thank you, Monty. So Jerry, do you have your little ones here? She doesn't. Well, we have them on the slides anyway. Jerry was initially getting $70 for 7 years in Rotary, but then she upped it a couple of days ago to also recognize Emily's baptism, it's the cute little girls in the last couple of weeks. Baptism on the 13th, and Henry, her son's who. So December is a big month in the Barry Enfield's house. $100, thank you, Jerry. Jamie Cox, Jamie? No, Jamie, $100. So some of you may know of the work that Jerry does with, Jamie does with the Oklahoma Center for Community and Justice, but she had a great article and write-up in the Tulsa Business and Legal News for the work that she's doing with OCCJ. So Jamie gave $100. I'm going to have to find myself. So wrong again. Thank you, Jamie. Judy. I know Martin's here. So Judy didn't think Martin would do a good enough job with the fine, so in his place, she gave, recognizing their wedding anniversary, she gave $25 for not taking her to Duck Dynasty shark fishing on the Arkansas River. She gave another $25 for not taking her to the retired Rotary Sergeants reunion in North Platte, Nebraska. I was unaware of the Sarge duties after you rolled off for the year, so apparently I'm heading to Nebraska next year. But she did give $50 for promising to take her to the Bellagio, Las Vegas, though I suggest taking a little more than $50. So thank you very much, Judy. Bill, you here? Bill Reichert. 64 birthday years and 40 years of marriage. And I just want to say, $104, you get accustomed every week when we're doing these announcements to hear 25 years of marriage, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. It is incredible, this group, the people that we're surrounded by, certainly for me, for people, I've been married 7 years now, no age, and to see people who have been married celebrating these 30s, 40s and 50s, so congratulations, Bill, and thank you very much. Dave Moore, Dave, you here? Now, I didn't put it on here, Dave, but at the end of the year, I'm going to have an award for whoever's Rotary picture in DuckDB bears the least resemblance to their current picture. I don't have it here, and on reflection I put it, but Dave is currently our leading candidate. So if you want to see what Dave looked like a few years ago, you should go on DuckDB. But he was very kind to give $220 for 22 years in Rotary, so thank you, Dave. His hair used to be a really dark shade of brown and black, by the way. Gary McCall, Gary, are you here? Gary, right back too. So 38 years in Rotary, 49th wedding anniversary to Pedro, and combined their 138 years. So that's $225. Congratulations, and thank you very much. Greg, I know, I just saw Greg right here. So, Karen forwarded me, Karen Keith for Future Sergeants is the best. I think she reads every page of every newspaper that is in print. She catches people every week. So, Jackie Cooper, on the payroll, they now have a corporate chaplain where the article actually goes through and describes the role of the chaplain to support the employees for everything that's not related to their business life. And it seems to be an incredible program. Clearly, it's something that you have to pay to do, so congratulations to Greg for that, and also for his $250 donation in observance of the reverence of the 25th next week. So thank you very much, Greg. And that's all, folks. 2014 is done for the Sarge, so I will see you on the other side. Thank you very much.
Matthew has done announcements for the year, but I do want to remind you that you can still make your donations. And we have a lot of good causes, as you know, like the water well projects over here. You can earmark them, City of Clinton. So if you still have not made your donations for the year, send them on in to the office, and then Matthew can announce them in January. So thank you for being so giving. Don't leave early today. We have a little special event at the end of the meeting, but now it's time to introduce the Rotarian of the Day, past President Ed Monette. Go ahead and come on up here, Ed. He's the owner of Monette and Associates. Ed joined us in the club in 1985. He's a Club Foundation Fellow, Paul Harris Fellow. Ed served as club president in 2002 and 2003. He is currently Membership Service Director. Please welcome Funny Man, Rotarian of the Day, past President Ed Monette.
Thank you, President Honda. Because I don't always know what I'm going to say when I get up here, I thought I'd write down a few notes when I introduce my good friend Jim Stovall. And knowing that he has the microphone after me, I need to be cautious, maybe. Jim and I have known each other since second grade on the McClure Eagles Elementary School baseball team, where we had less than a stellar record, but we had lots of fun, right, Jim? But I thought instead of reading Jim's prepared introduction, I would get on the internet and do my own. And let me just get you a couple of bullet points, because it is quite amazing. Jim Stovall has been honored with the International Humanitarian of the Year Award, joining none other than Mother Teresa, Nancy Reagan. It's amazing. He was a National Olympic weightlifting champion, an Emmy Award winner, named USJC's 10 Outstanding Americans Award, National Entrepreneur of the Year, blah, 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 it goes on and on. U.S. Chamber of Commerce National Blue Chip Award. He's the founder and president of the Narrative Television Network, which provides television programming to the visually impaired. It's seen in virtually every home in the United States and shown in 11 foreign countries. Jim has written 25 books. Jim, I haven't read 25 books. 4 of those books have been turned into major motion pictures, not the least of which you all probably saw The Ultimate Gift, starring James Garner, that premiered here in Tulsa. 2 more of his books are in movie production right now. Steve Forbes Jr. has said of Jim Stovall is one of the most extraordinary men of our era. But if he'd made a little bit bigger donation to his failed presidential campaign, you would have been the most extraordinary man in history. So, Jim is a highly sought-after speaker. He's appeared before Fortune 100 companies and national trade groups as their keynote speaker. I know it's dues invoice time for Rotary, and if you think you're not getting your money worth out of this club, you ought to check what his speaker's fee is, and he's doing it for free today. This is... he would be more than a presenting sponsor at IDA if, for his fees. It's amazing what he does all over the world. Jim has achieved all of this, by the way, after he lost his sight. Jim has appeared as an actor in 4 movies, remarkably as a limo driver. But I understand he performed all his own stunts. Jim and I graduated together from Tulsa Mason High School, a few the crowd, where Jim was voted most likely to accomplish everything amazing, and I was voted most likely to introduce Jim to the Rotary meeting. Please welcome my friend Jim Stovall.
Oh, thank you very much. It's always hard to say anything after Ed, so you just kind of avoid it and try to forget it. We were trying to figure out how many years I've been doing this, and 8, 10, 12 years, Ed's reached out and got me to come back here. And, you know, as a professional speaker, I found out years ago it's a whole lot easier to find a new crowd than a new talk, so I keep moving. So it's, this is hard on my repertoire here, but each and every time I stand up in front of a group of people like this, somewhere in the world, to share for a few minutes about some things in this life I believe to be important. Every time I do this, I'm always reminded of that time in my life when this was not possible. It was a little over 25 years ago that morning I did wake up and I instantly realized I had lost the remainder of my sight, and I knew right then I would live the rest of my life as a blind person. And the thoughts and the doubts and the fears that came over me that morning, those 2 decades ago, would be impossible to describe to you. I was 29 years old, I had never met a blind person, and I didn't have a clue what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And the only plan I could come up with that morning involved moving into this little 9 by 12 foot room in the back of my house. And in my little room there, I gathered my radio, my telephone, and my tape recorder. And that was my whole world 25 years ago. The thought of traveling millions of miles and speaking to millions of people each year, the thought of running a television network with over 1,000 stations, the thought of writing now 30 books and having 4 of them made into movies with a couple more in production, the thought of writing a weekly syndicated column read by 4 million people on 3 continents, or the thought of being at your Rotary Club today was as impossible to me at that time as going to the moon. I couldn't imagine it. So I sat in my little 9 by 12 foot room, my little self-imposed prison there in the back of my house where I thought I would never leave. Getting more and more depressed and more discouraged. And I would probably still be there today except for one thing, and that is the fact that I literally hate for people like you to come and talk to. So I want you to know what a privilege it is for me to be here, especially at this club. I've had a lot of blessings in my life, and among them was, as a very young man, when I was a college student, Lee Braxton, entrepreneur extraordinaire, businessman, was my mentor. He also co-founded this club many years ago. And one of the things Mr. Braxton left with me was, he said, Jim, the best thing you can ever do with your time is help someone else, and the most fun you'll ever have with your money is giving it away. And he would be very proud of you today. When you live your life like I do as a blind person, that some of the most talented and gifted people anywhere are willing to dedicate their lives, and in my case, they dedicate their eyes to making it possible for you to do what you do. You take every opportunity, including ones like this, to simply say thank you. Kelly Morrison is the marketing director for Rotary Television. She handles all of our publicity for our almost 1,100 stations. She handles all of the promotion for my books and the movies, and she arranges all the speaking tours and everything we do. She's also one of the most talented singers and songwriters you will ever hear. She's performed and written music for all of our movies, and those movie soundtracks have included Bob Dylan and B.B. King and Willie Nelson, Patsy Cline, and she holds her own, to say the very least. And she's as good a friend as I've got. She makes it possible for me to get from there to here. So would you please help me welcome and thank Kelly Morrison right there. On the way over here, Kelly always goes over the kind of agenda with me, and she said, now try to say something nice about Ed. I have written 30 books and 4 movie scripts, and I've been nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for fiction, but saying something nice about Ed is not easy. Ed and I did meet when we were playing Little League Baseball, and I have to be honest, Ed was the best guy on our team. Ed was formidable. You know, a lot of athletes peak in their 20s, and business people in their 30s, and entrepreneurs in their 40s and 50s. Ed peaked at 9. Now, you know, he may not seem that impressive to you now, just to look at him or talk to him, but he was just like this when we were 9. And I venture to say, you line up a group of 3rd or 4th grade people right now, Ed could strike those guys out. So it's, yeah, it's always good to be with Ed. And Ed, you know, he's a lot deeper than you would imagine. And a lot of people don't realize Ed is a great historian. He's a constitutional scholar. I know that because Ed knows I'm one of the highest paid speakers in America, and I have a very intense schedule. But Ed believes in free speech. And every year he exercises his belief in free speech and hits me up to come out here. But all of us in our graduating class, we're really proud of Ed. Ed has gone on, Ed's a giant in the health insurance industry. I know that because he called me one day and said, I'm a giant, Jim, in this industry. And if you don't believe me, you just ask him, he'll tell you all about it. You know, you want to pack a lunch if you ask Ed any questions. But Ed is making his own movie next year. It'll be out. It's a documentary film starring Ed. Ed Monette Explains Obamacare. It's going to be really good. They're shooting that in high def because if you understand it, you got to be higher def. Well, I can't stand here all day talking about Ed. I could, but they said, you know, Jim, be careful. This is a Methodist church, and watch your language, you know. And if you talk any more about Ed, it gets a little off color, so you got to watch that. Oh, it is great to be with you guys, and always such a privilege. And I was sitting there eating lunch trying to figure out what has happened since I got to visit with you last time, and we've had a couple of exciting things. We did the sequel to the Ultimate Gift movie, and The Ultimate Life. It came out in theaters last year, and we're very grateful that the DVD and the Blu-ray, both of The Ultimate Gift and The Ultimate Life, are tracking right now in 5th and 6th nationally in sales, and they've never gotten out of the top 10, and we remain very grateful for the people all around the world that have supported those titles and continue to. And when we were making The Ultimate Life, we had the cast back from The Ultimate Gift, and then we added a few people. Michael Landon Jr. directed, and Peter Fonda played a new character I had written, and so it was great to have Mr. Landon and Mr. Fonda working with me. And last year I was on a conference call with the two of them before we started shooting, and I said, guys, you know, I'm going to have to cut this short here in just about 15, 20 minutes because my father's retiring, and a lot of you know my father. He retired from the Oral Roberts University organization after 56 years there, and he retired early in '81. And when he retired, the last 25 years he worked at their retirement center, University Village, and in honor of he and my mother, they remodeled the theater and they named it the George Stovall Theater. So I was telling Michael Landon and Peter Fonda, I said, guys, we're going to have to cut this short because they're naming a theater after my dad. And Michael Landon said, yeah, they named one after my dad in Hollywood. And Peter Fonda said, well, my dad's theater, the Henry Fonda Theater, is on Broadway right off of Times Square. And I said, well, guys, that's all well and good, but you get over there near Jenks in Oklahoma, and this Stovall thing, it's a big deal. So, you know, working in the movie business always keeps you a little humble. And then we also shot a movie right here in Tulsa based on my novel, The Lamp. We brought in Academy Award winner Louis Gossett Jr., and we had a lot of fun with that. And as Ed mentioned, I did reprise my role as the limo driver, and something just made sense to me about driving the limo. And we shot the whole thing here in Tulsa, except for I asked some business colleagues and people I co-authored books with to do little cameos in the movie. So Tulsa's own Paula Marshall made a quick appearance there, and Harlan Stonecipher. And then I asked Steve Forbes. I said, Steve, I'd like you to be in this movie. And he said, Jim, I don't know if I could do a movie. I said, Steve, I got footage of you on Saturday Night Live in a chicken suit. Of course you can do my movie. Well, the way I'd written the script, it required the limo scene to be out in front of the Forbes building in New York. So if you see that movie, it looks like I'm driving a limo across Manhattan. I'm really not. And no animals or people were injured in that process. But my scene required, I had Jason London, our hero in our story, in the back of my limo, and we pulled up in front of the Forbes building, and then I was supposed to say something to Jason, he says something to me, I say something to him, he gets out, runs into the building to meet Steve Forbes. Well, at the appointed hour, the director said action, and I said my line, and Jason said his, and I said my line, he got out, ran in, and the director said cut, and I'm not a great actor, but I am a one-take guy. We got it all down, and then the only other thing we had to do is then real quick they switched me out and they have a double who actually drives the car. So they put him in the car and the director says action, and all he's got to do is pull out into traffic and drive away. So at the appointed moment he said action, and the limo pulls out into traffic, and the guy, my double, runs into a cab. The man wrecks my limo right in front of the Forbes building. So I turned to my partner and the director, Tracy Trost, and I said, you know, Tracy, I know I make people nervous when I get behind the wheel, but how much worse than that could I have really done? I feel fairly comfortable with this. Well, that kind of ends the deep intellectual part of my remarks today. I like to get the heavy stuff out of the way right up front. You know, this time of year, we always try to think about legacy and significance and the things that matter. We should think about them all the time, but this year at least we're reminded of what we should be thinking about all the time. And for years in corporate America, everybody said you got to have a mission statement. You got to know what you're doing, have a mission statement. And while that may or may not be important, I think all people should have a mission statement. Why are we here? What are we doing? And mine was given to me by my grandmother many years ago. And I hope during this holiday season and into the new year, you'll have time to reflect on your life and your mission statements. Because as I was saying, this is not a practice game, guys. This is the World Series, the Super Bowl, and the Olympics all rolled up into one. And today's the day. This is the one that matters. And when I was a little kid, I had an older sister, and she was dying of leukemia. And those of you who have seen or read The Ultimate Gift, you'll realize that Emily, the character that Abigail Breslin played, was not so much fiction. That was my sister. And while she was ill, I had to go stay with my grandparents while my parents were taking my sister all across the country to see specialists and everything. And I didn't want to be with my grandparents. I mean, I was away from home, and I didn't have my toys and my dog and my friends, and I guess I had a bad attitude, and I was complaining a lot. And my grandmother said, Jim, you can complain all you want as soon as you fill out your golden list. That's a rule we have here. And I said, what's a golden list? She said, well, we have to write down 10 things you're thankful for, then you can complain all you want. I said, okay, let's write them down. And we did, and that is a practice I have done every morning for the ensuing 50 years. And I promise you, if you will adopt that practice every day, it will change your life, and I defy you to do that and have a bad day. It's impossible. And my grandmother was a very special person to me in many ways, so I always think about her this time of year. And I've gotten far more money and acclaim and renown than anybody should ever deserve simply for telling the world stuff she told me. And I remember I thought I was going to be a professional football player, and I was going back to play another season of football, and during a routine physical I was diagnosed with this condition that would cause me to be blind, and I instantly realized I wasn't going to go into the NFL and play for the beloved Dallas Cowboys. Do you realize at that time and to this very day there's never been a blind guy play for the Dallas Cowboys? So I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I remember I went back up to Missouri to see my grandmother, and I was telling her about my dreams being killed, and I was not going to get to play football anymore. I didn't know what I was going to do, and she listened, and she said, well, let's remember what we always say when we have a crisis. And for as long as I can remember, she said, we stick together and it works out. Just remember, we stick together and it works out. And that was all she said about it. And I'm panicking. I'm trying to think, well, how can you live your life as a blind person? And then the next day she said, well, I'm ready to talk about it. And I said, talk about what? And she said, I'm ready to talk about that blind thing. And she said, I talked to your grandfather about it. I don't want to argue. She said, but this spring, after I get to see my flowers one more time, I want you to call that doctor and tell him to take out my eyes and give them to you. Now, she did not know that was not then, or is it now, medically possible. But even had it been medically possible, she gave me a gift even greater than her eyes would have been, the certain knowledge that there was somebody that amazing in this world that simply cared. That simply cared. Well, years rolled by, and she was approaching the end of her life, and she was in a hospital, and they told us she didn't have long to live, and I was there by her bedside, and I was panicking because I had a corporate contract to speak in Hawaii in 2 days, and I didn't want to be away from her when she passed. And she had told me from the time I was a little kid that I should just call her a young lady instead of grandma. And I said, how long do we do that? And I don't. She said, I'll let you know when you don't. And she made it to 88. So I was sitting there by her bed in the hospital. I said, young lady, I think I need to cancel this contract and stay here with you. And she said, no, if I taught you anything, it's we do what we said we do. We stick together and it works out. And I said, I'm afraid if I leave, you won't be here when I get back. She said, you go do your job and I'll be here. And she was. 4 days later, I was back, and I said, what can I do for you? And she said, I don't want to die in this hospital. Can you fix that? And I said, yes, ma'am. So I told the doctors, I want my grandmother moved home. And he said, Jim, that would take a lot of doing. I said, I don't care if it takes a flying carpet. Let's go. So in the next couple of days, we turned her home there in Springfield, Missouri into a great medical center, and we moved in doctors and nurses and equipment and beds and all this stuff. And she got to enjoy her flowers and the things that she liked until she went on to heaven. And one of the last times I went to see her, I slipped in and she was sleeping, and her nurse came out and said, your grandmother is so proud of you and what you do. And I said, I don't even think she knows what I do. And she said, oh no, there's an 8x10 picture of you holding an Emmy Award right there on her bedside table. And every person that comes into this house, the doctors, the nurses, the technicians, every person that comes in here, she says, that's my grandson. He only does 2 things. He helps blind people see television and movies, and he travels around the world telling people they can have good things in their life. And that became my mission statement. If I live to be 143 years old, that's where you'll find me. when I pass. And it is such a privilege to be here and be with you guys because of all the great things you do. And I remember sitting in that little 9 by 12 foot room on a day much like this, and it's only a few miles from right here. And sitting there alone in the dark, with no hope, broke and scared and depressed. If I had only known that there were people like you, the most prominent people in the town I grew up in, they got together every week to focus on people that simply needed someone to care. If I had known that, it would have made a huge difference. So I want to thank you for what you do. You do make a difference. Don't grow weary in your good deeds. It's an honor for us to be here. Kelly made arrangements to have a few of my books over there. And she's got some kind of Santa Claus special. So if you're like me and you haven't gotten your shopping done, she's got a few books over there. And as always, I'll be happy to scribble my name in your book. The great thing about my signature is you can go back to work or go home and really impress people because, see, they won't be able to read it anyway. So you can make stuff up. You can say, look, Barack Obama or the Pope signed that. Tell them Ed Monette signed it. That's impressive since you don't know how to write. But I always like to warn people when you do have a blind man with an ink pen, you want to stand back. I can't mess up your wardrobe. Once again, I want to thank you for the privilege and the opportunity to be here on behalf of my great friend and mentor, Lee Braxton. Press on and keep doing great things. And as always, I'll leave you with this. Hold on to your dreams and stand tall, even when those around you will force you to crawl. Hold on to your dreams, the race you must run, even when reality whispers you'll never be done. And finally, my fellow Tulsans, hold on to your dreams and wait for the magic to come, because on that miraculous day, your dreams and your reality will merge into one. I love you. More night safe. See you next time.
Try to adopt his philosophy, writing those 10 things down. I think that's a great idea. It was an honor to have you here with us today, Jim. A book recognized in today's program will be an audiobook called The Lamp by Mr. Stovall. We are dedicating that to our City of Clinton School. Don't forget, we will be closed on the 24th, and we will not have a meeting the 24th and the 31st. And then January 7th, we will have our next meeting, New York Times author C.J. Blocks. Now, are we ready? To put us in the Christmas spirit, as we conclude, I hope you take this moment to treasure your Rotary friendships, to reflect on the holiday time with your family, and say a prayer for peace. That's what Rotary is all about in the first place. We're trying to spread peace around the world. So we're going to have a little candlelight lighting, and if you'll start the music and lower the lights. Light the first candle, and I'm going to give it to Past President Karen. Then she will start the passing. Happy holidays to you, and spread the peace. Merry Christmas. Merry Church.